He sits across from you at dinner, this man who seems to possess something you cannot name. His phone remains face down, untouched. When the waiter brings the wrong order, he corrects it without anger or apology. When his companion tries to guilt him into changing his plans, he simply says no and continues eating. There is something unsettling about his presence, something that makes you realize how frantically you have been performing your own life. He is not trying to impress anyone, not seeking approval, not afraid of silence. He exists in a state of complete self-possession that feels almost alien in our age of constant negotiation and compromise. You are witnessing a rare species, the sovereign man. This is not the loud masculinity of social media, not the compensatory aggression of the insecure, not the performative dominance of those who mistake volume for strength. This is something far more dangerous to the existing order. A man who has become ungovernable because he has first learned to govern himself. He has discovered what Niccolo Machiavelli understood in his exile, what every tyrant fears, what every manipulator seeks to destroy. That true power is not domination over others, but absolute dominion over oneself. Machiavelli wrote, "The prince not as a manual for oppression, but as a survival guide for those who refused to be victims. Stripped of position, tortured for his loyalty, betrayed by those he served, he emerged from his darkness with a revelation that would reshape political thought forever. He called it virtù, not the Christian virtue of submission and self-sacrifice, but the fusion of the lion's strength and the fox's cunning. The sovereign man embodies this principle, not as a philosophy, but as a way of being, a fundamental orientation toward existence that makes him immune to the mechanisms of control that govern ordinary men. Most men never reach this state because they are programmed from birth to be subjects rather than sovereigns. Society rewards obedience and punishes independence. We learn to shrink under criticism, smile through discomfort, say yes when every fiber of our being screams no. We are taught that our value depends on others' approval, that our worth is measured by how well we fit into systems designed to use us. This is not personality, it is programming, and manipulation only works on those who have never questioned their code. The sovereign man's journey begins in darkness. Betrayal, humiliation, exile, the shattering of illusions about human nature and the way the world actually works. Once broken open, he stops being naive. He stops assuming good faith. He stops believing that love means immunity from harm or that friendship guarantees loyalty. This brutal awakening births the first rule of sovereignty. To be free, you must lose your innocence, the comfortable lies about human nature, the pleasant fantasies about fairness and reciprocity, the childish belief that good intentions protect you from bad outcomes. All of this must die before the sovereign man can be born. The modern tragedy is not that men lack strength, but that their strength is constantly redirected toward appeasing lovers, bosses, friends, and ideologies until they forget the original fire that forged their will. They perform their lives like actors who have forgotten the script, relying on audience applause to know if they are still alive. They become eunuchs in courts of favor, generals begging for royal approval, friends betraying each other for a throne's smile. Without self-dominion, every alliance becomes a leash, and every kiss a potential execution. The manipulator does not attack your mind directly. They seduce your hunger, the hunger to be seen, chosen, finally deemed worthy of love and respect. If you do not become conscious of these hungers, name them, confront them, break them down to their primitive bones, someone will use them against you. Not because they are evil, but because it works. People are not good or bad, they are predictable. Those who do not govern themselves will always be governed by those who can. The cruel irony is that the more you fear manipulation, the more easily you will be manipulated. This awakening will not make life easier. It will make it heavier, more silent, more solitary, but infinitely more lucid. You will notice the strings in every smile, hear double meanings in every compliment, watch conversations like chessboards, mapping incentives and weaknesses in every word. This is not paranoia, it is preparation. What is paranoia but truth in a society of denial? Those who call such minds dark simply have not dared to see how power actually moves. Not in theories, but in whispers, dinners, glances exchanged when no one watches, gifts that are not gifts, and apologies that are declarations of war. To escape manipulation is not to escape the game, but to upgrade your position within it. You stop being a piece moved by others' hands. You become a player with agency, vision, and the capacity to act, rather than merely react. The player must follow different laws. He must see what others deny and act before others react. He must train his eye to detect betrayal, not when it happens, but when it is still a seed in someone's glance. He must feel the shift in loyalty before words change. He must withdraw before they notice he has stepped back, not because he is afraid, but because he refuses to bleed for those sharpening their knives with compliments. There is a moment, subtle and sacred, when a man crosses from victim to sovereign. It happens not in a shout, but in a breath, not in confrontation, but in internal alignment. Once it happens, the world can no longer manipulate him in the old ways. He sees the trap before the bait is set. But to reach this point, he must first burn. Burn every excuse. Burn every illusion of being special, innocent, or immune. Burn the fantasy that anyone will save him from the consequences of his own blindness. Only from that ash can true sovereignty emerge. Every structure of control depends on your consent. Consent does not just mean saying yes. It means silence when you should speak, politeness when you should walk away, laughter when the joke cuts your dignity, stillness when your soul screams to move. Manipulation thrives not because others are cunning, but because you are afraid to disrupt the peace, even when it is killing you. There is a peace that is poison, the peace of conformity, the peace of the cage. The man who resists manipulation is not the one who fights everyone, but the one who no longer lies to himself about what is happening. When you live in denial, you become clay, soft and moldable, ready to be shaped by whichever hand flatters your fears. But when you see, truly see, what is being done, what is being asked, what is being implied, something shifts. The clay turns to stone. You become immovable. This is not arrogance, this is discipline. This is having a spine made of aligned principles, not borrowed slogans. Let others live by what pleases them. You must live by what sustains you. And often what sustains a sovereign man is the very thing that repels the herd. Silence, discernment, boundaries, refusal. You cannot be manipulated if you are willing to disappoint. This is the threshold most never cross. They would rather lie than let someone down. They would rather fold than offend. They would rather bleed than be disliked. And so they remain enslaved, not by chains, but by their own addiction to approval. True sovereignty is built not in grand gestures, but in 1,000 micro-decisions where you choose truth over comfort. This requires a brutal inventory. You must ask yourself, where am I still pretending? Who am I still placating? What fear still governs my choices? And once you see it, you must cut it without apology, without delay. Machiavelli did not write for cowards. He wrote for those willing to see the world unmasked, to walk among the lies, immune to their perfume. The sovereign man must train his nervous system to remain calm in rejection. He must train his tongue to say no without guilt. He must train his heart to beat steady in the absence of applause, because if someone can manipulate your peace, they own your destiny. When you stop needing external validation, you become untouchable. The insult does not land. The flattery does not seduce. The silence does not diminish. Why? Because your worth is not in their hands. This is the paradox. Only the man who is free from the need to control is also free from being controlled. Only the man who can look a lie in the face, even a beautiful, comforting, seductive lie, and call it what it is without flinching, can escape the mechanisms that enslave the rest. The sovereign man operates from a different frequency. He does not react, he responds. He does not defend, he clarifies. He does not explain, he acts. His power comes not from what he says, but from what he does not need to say. He understands that most conversations are negotiations disguised as conversations. Most kindness is manipulation disguised as care. Most love is transaction disguised as emotion. This does not make him cynical. It makes him precise. He knows that the person who tells you, "I would never hurt you," is often the first to betray you. But the one who warns you, "I am capable of anything," that one is honest. Honesty is not about sounding nice. It is about not hiding the knife. The worst manipulation happens inside your own mind. You lie to yourself to stay comfortable. You deny truth to avoid change. You ignore red flags because you are afraid of being alone. Self-honesty is the antidote to all manipulation. That is why most people run from it. They would rather live in illusions than face reality. They would rather be slaves with smiles than sovereigns with scars. But the sovereign man chooses differently. He chooses the suffering of solitude over the agony of self-betrayal. He chooses clarity over comfort. He chooses truth over approval. This is not the path of the bitter or the cruel. This is the path of the awake. The sovereign man is not against people. He is for reality. He is not against love. He is for authentic connection. He is not against peace. He is against the poisonous peace of conformity. He becomes dangerous not because he is violent, but because he is untouchable. He cannot be bought, threatened, seduced, or shamed into abandoning his principles. When you reach this state, you will notice something profound. The people who truly matter will respect your boundaries. The ones who do not were never your people anyway. The sovereign man does not need to announce his power. It radiates from his stillness. It speaks through his silence. It commands through his presence. He has learned the ultimate secret. Everything you need to be free already exists within you. The cage was always unlocked. The chains were always removable. The key was always in your hand. You just had to be willing to use it. This is not about becoming cold or disconnected. This is about becoming whole. When you are complete within yourself, you can love without attachment, give without expecting, and receive without debt. The sovereign man's gift to the world is not his compliance, but his authenticity. Not his agreement, but his integrity. Not his submission, but his strength. He stands as proof that manipulation is not inevitable. That freedom is not fantasy. That sovereignty is not reserved for kings and queens, but available to anyone willing to pay the price. And the price? The courage to see clearly, the strength to stand alone, the wisdom to know the difference between what you want and what you have been taught to want. This is the king's code. Not a manual for domination, but a blueprint for liberation. Not a weapon against others, but armor for yourself. The choice is yours. You can remain clay, soft and moldable, shaped by every passing hand. Or you can become stone, immovable and eternal, carved only by your own will. The world needs more sovereign men, not tyrants or narcissists, but individuals who know themselves so completely that they cannot be moved by external forces, who love so purely that they cannot be manipulated by false affection, who stand so firmly that they cannot be toppled by criticism or praise. Become that man. The world is waiting for you to remember who you truly are beneath all the programming, all the conditioning, all the lies you have been told about what you should want, should be, should do. You are not here to be controlled. You are here to be free. And freedom begins the moment you stop lying to yourself about what is really happening. Wake up. Stand up. Take back your power. The kingdom was always yours.